First, let's talk about the proper way to wind your bobbin. The first step in threading your bobbin winder is to pass the thread through the thread mask hook, and you can see a picture of that down in the bottom left-hand corner. The second step is to wrap the thread through the pigtail, or just insert it straight down through the pigtail so it runs through smoothly. The next step is very critical. Ensure that your thread is tightly flossed through the tension disc. This is very important to get a nice even bobbin wind. To ensure that your bobbin winds evenly, the fourth step is to pass your thread through the rectangular hole in the center of the bobbin. You can hold on to that thread tail to ensure that your thread begins winding evenly. The fifth step is to place your bobbin on the bobbin pin and ensure it fits tightly. If for some reason your bobbin doesn't fit tightly on the bobbin pin, if you notice there's a split in that pin, take a screwdriver and very gently pry that pin apart just slightly. That will ensure a tight fit. Another way to ensure that you're getting a nice evenly wound bobbin is to start out slow. So let's turn the speed down to 2. After you have several revolutions of thread on your bobbin, stop the machine, snip your thread, and then restart it and turn your speed up to 4. Now I realize that your speed can go all the way to 10, but if you want a really well-wound bobbin, 4 is where you need to be. And this is the end result of following these steps. A nice, smoothly wound and firmly wound bobbin ready to pop into your machine. If your bobbin, on the other hand, feels soft and mushy, it's time to adjust your tension on your bobbin winder. You want to turn the tension to the right to tighten it up. If, on the other hand, it seems too tight, then adjust your tension to the left to loosen it up. Now let's watch the process in motion. We've gone through the thread mask, around the little pigtail. Now this is the critical part right here. Take your thread and really floss it through your tension disc. Now take your thread end and it's threaded through the little rectangular hole in your bobbin. After you do that, grab onto your thread tail and then place it on your bobbin pin. Hold your thread tail, turn your machine speed to 2, and turn on your bobbin winder. You now have several revolutions on your bobbin, and we can snip the thread tail, turn the machine back on, and set the speed up to 4. And just 25 seconds later, we have a nicely wound, smooth, firm bobbin. That was pretty easy. This is something else I want to point out to you. Do you see how this bobbin is not totally filled? There's a reason for that. Some threads do not work well if you overfill the bobbin. So it's good to leave a little bit of a margin on the end of your bobbin to allow your thread to work smoothly. Now fortunately, the machine gives us an option so that we don't have to manually shut it off. Those white lines that you see right there are indications as to where the bobbin is going to shut off. So if you put a bobbin on there, do you see if I were to put the line right there and tighten up the screw, that's going to make the bobbin stop before it's totally filled. To keep your machine running happily, after every second bobbin change, it's time to clean out the bobbin area and check the oil. The tools needed for this job are a quality machine oil, no 3-in-1 here, a screwdriver, that would be a flat edge, a soft bristle brush, and some cotton swabs. With your screwdriver, remove the screws from your throat plate, and then set the throat plate and the screws aside. Next, remove the thread from your needle and also the bobbin case and bobbin from the bobbin area. With your soft bristled brush, let's brush out the entire bobbin area, including the bobbin case and chase, and remove all lint. Now, I strongly recommend that you do not use canned air. Canned air does nothing but tightly compact the lint down in that area. Now, this is an easy way to clean that flat tension spring on the outside of your bobbin case. Take a plain piece of white paper, fold it in half, and slip it down underneath the flat spring. Now bring that paper towards the end of the spring. Make sure when you're done that the spring lays flat in the hole again. Here's another tip for you. Once you pull the spout out of your new oil bottle, leave it out. Pushing it back in could contaminate your oil. To begin oiling, lower your needle to the needle down position to expose the hook. That's the area you want to oil. Now, instead of standing on your head trying to find the hook area underneath the machine, it's right here on top. Now place 1 or 2 drops of oil in that hook area. Run your unthreaded machine a couple of minutes, and this will distribute the oil throughout. Now raise your needle and clean out the bobbin area once again with a cotton swab to remove any excess oil from our oiling. Now it's time for the bobbin again. Insert your bobbin into the case with the bobbin thread winding off the bobbin clockwise until you hit the slit and pull down until it hits the flat tension spring. Continue to pull on the thread tail until your thread goes under the flat tension spring and you'll hear a click and then ends up in the hole as shown in the picture. Now let's check the tension, and we do that by placing the bobbin face down in the palm of our hand and pulling the thread. It should stand up, but you can see where this one barely came up and it was just coming out too easily. So now it's time for some tension adjustment. This is the screw that we will turn, and remember it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. In our case, our tension was too loose, so we're going to tighten it up a little bit by turning the screw to the right in very small increments. Another complaint I hear is the bobbin backlash. That's when your bobbin seems to spin around and your thread gets caught. This is what I suggest is a good fix for that, and that's the Magic Bobbin Genies. They just set right inside your bobbin case. You don't have to remove anything first. Put in your bobbin, thread it in your case as you normally would. And just to show that it doesn't make a difference in the tension, there we go, our tension is still good. It's now time to put our bobbin and the case in the bobbin area and close up the area so that we can sew. Make sure this end is up when you place the bobbin in the machine. Also make sure the countersunk holes are face up on your throat plate. Now let's go ahead and rethread the needle. Do you remember that plain piece of paper that we used before? Here's another trick. Place it behind the eye of your needle, and it makes it so much easier to see. Now this last step not only helps us check our tension, it also removes any excess oil that might still be there, rather to get it on this scrap piece of fabric than on your quilt. As you're checking your tension, do both straight lines and curves to make sure that the tension is working well for you. If not, this would be the time to use your upper tension to adjust for any problems that you might have. But it appears that we're in good shape and we're now good to go.